The reason Greg became so angry with himself because he was convinced that the lack of his follow-through was because he was lacking self-discipline, willpower, or motivation, you name it. He was blaming himself for not following through. My job was to convince him otherwise. My job was to prove to him that it wasn't his fault, that he wasn't applying the techniques that he was learning in the accelerated learning courses. When I'm teaching seminars at corporations, I like to manage the expectations of learners. The reason I like to do that is because when I'm teaching at corporations, the names of which I can't say, I teach to groups of MBAs or PhDs, and all of them understand the speed reading or memory methods on the cognitive level. And they get very frustrated when they go to their office and they can't start applying those techniques right away. So I learned how to manage the learner's expectations by explaining to them the 4 steps of learning. Step number 1 is when you are unconsciously incompetent. That when you don't even know what your eyes are doing when you're moving your eyes along the page. When you don't even know that you have 15 tabs open as you're watching a video course. When you're not even aware that your mind goes off on a tangent when you're watching a video course. That's unconscious incompetence. And then when you begin watching this course, you begin to be consciously incompetent. We began this course by talking about why learning from video courses must be harder than you think. And I gave you about 13 different reasons why learning from video courses is actually not as easy as we think. We tend to buy too many courses, we tend not to finish them because there's no peer pressure. We tend to be at the mercy of the instructor because we can only take in new information as fast as the instructor is talking. By the way, I'm recording this video at a very slow pace, so if your auditory processing is normal and you can process information very well, I recommend that you speed it up and go at about 1.25, 1.5 the speed, and that would help you get through the information faster, and believe it or not, it will help you focus. So let's go through the steps one more time. The first 2 steps are unconscious incompetence. Step number 2 is conscious incompetence. And then towards the 3rd lesson in this Udemy course, we started to see, okay, so these are the reasons why learning from video courses is harder than you think, but what can we do about it? How can we combat those difficulties and make it easier for ourselves? How can you stop the mind from wandering? You can use focus cards. So we started to become consciously competent. And that's where usually all the learning stops. We go through the first 3 steps, but that's not where you achieve the mastery. That's not where you start to integrate the learning into your performance zone. That's not where you can go to the office and start using the speed reading techniques. You need to take it to step 4, which is, you guessed it, unconscious competence, where you sit down at your desk and you wind up your timer at 25 minutes for 1 full Pomodoro, when you close all of your tabs, when you put your phone on silent, you prepare your focus cards and you fold the piece in half and you're ready to take in new information. When you are doing this unconsciously, that's when you own the information. And also, Greg prescribed to this idea that he was lacking a certain character trait, that as if there was a gene that's called follow-through. And if you have a lot of that gene, then you're good at follow-through. And if you have not a lot of that gene, then you're not really good at follow-through. But that's not correct. My job was to convince him out of it, and that it wasn't his fault that he wasn't following through, because his motivation was great. He was very motivated to level up in his career, and he deserves it. He's a good guy. He's a good character. And I had to explain to him a fundamental flaw in the neurological design of our brain and why we're so terrible at follow through with some things. And I made a discovery of how you could actually fix that. Let's get to the next video.